to a default, I don't, use that to my advantage a lot with marketing and with, letting people know that, no, this is my life.
Welcome to the Project My Life podcast from Monetti Productions. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Project My Life, the podcast with Anthony Monetti. I am not Anthony Monetti. I'm usually the guy on the other side of the camera. My name is Joey, and I have the immense privilege of interviewing Mr. Anthony Monetti today. He has no idea what we're talking about. He's a little nervous. I see some sweat in his eyebrows going for sure, but I'm excited about today's conversation. We're just going to dive in, get to know you a little bit more, what makes you tick, some things like that we don't normally get to touch on when we're talking about meal planning and weightlifting and bodybuilding and things like that, which is great, but this is a nice little change of pace.
Yeah.
You're terrified.
I like being it because it's easy. It's easier for me to kind of just take the back seat and just go with the flow rather than always being the leader.
I love it. So to that end, I've never heard this story. I've heard pieces of it, but I've heard you say many times that you started your bodybuilding journey at 13.
Correct.
Give me that story. What got you into bodybuilding? What said, oh, this is what I want to do with my life?
Okay, so you want like before 13 or like 13 was a pivotal age because that's when I started weight training.
Okay.
Leading up to that, I was athletic. It wasn't like I was a couch potato, but there was periods in my life where I didn't do as much physical activity. I was at 9 years old. I'll bring it back to that, and then it'll be like a quick preview to leading up to 13. But 9 years old, I was in judo. I was a hyperactive kid, so to speak. There was no ADHD diagnosis back then.
Sure.
My parents were old school. It's like, this dude's a little crazy. Let's see what the doctors say. Because I was literally just like rambunctious. I was all over the place. Real quick, my mom and dad had a lot of trouble having kids. So there was 14 years in between me and my brother.
Wow.
So my parents' first baby died at 4 years old, or 4 months old. 4 hours. I'm sorry. Excuse me. 4 hours old. My dad leaves to go get cigars, comes back to the hospital. Nurse says your baby expired. So I can only imagine what that felt like for them. Sure. But they're resilient. And then they had my brother, which, thank God he's healthy and he's 56 or 57 now. And then they had like a miscarriage, stillborn. And then doctor said, you're never going to have kids ever again. So it was a big lapse in my parents when, obviously they were trying to build a family.
Yeah.
I came into the picture and I was like out of the gates like a monster, dude. I was just like rambunctious. I wasn't the best eater. I was just always doing something and moving around. And my parents were a little bit older and they were 40. Yeah. So they were like, this dude's crazy, So, and they weren't into the medication route, but they just wanted to get like, maybe there is something going on with him that we need to take care of.
Something we could do to help him out.
Right. Yep. Right. So the doctor said he's just hyperactive. Put him in some sports. Put him in some, some kind of activity. So my parents thought of judo, and I fell in love with it. So that helped me with discipline. It helped me, just respect and just, physical activity. That was my first really, organized, physical, structured exercise. Yeah. And I loved it. Did that for a while. My parents moved from North Jersey down to Bricktown. Okay. And that was at like 10 or 11. So that was a weird age. I wasn't doing judo anymore and I had to like leave my friends. I really didn't have, a lot of people around me growing up my age anyway, because my brother was 14 years older than me.
Right. Massive gap.
So I was just kind of like an only child, basically. My brother was, 19, 20. He was living up north. He stayed up there. Me and my parents moved down to South Jersey, Ocean County. And then from there, it was like trying to like learn a new environment, meet new friends. I was a little bit like, insecure. And then I started eating and not doing anything. I was socially a little bit, what's the word? Socially anxious, I guess. Social anxiety. So my parents were like, we're not having this. So baseball, tried soccer. I hated soccer, all the running. Baseball was cool, but it was a little just like, all right, it was like 3 seconds of action. And that was like...
I feel that way now about baseball.
There was like 4 seconds of action and I was just kind of chilling out.
Let's hurry up and wait.
Exactly. Yep. So I was like, this is boring. But I still, at the time, was gaining weight. And, now 12, 13, I was like, all right, well, I'm not happy with the fat in my body. I watched my mom and my brother kind of deal with, let's say, an unhealthy relationship with food, but dieting. There was actually a candy back then called AIDS. I don't know if you remember. It was a brown cube. It was wrapped, saran wrap, and it came in either a tube. I don't know. It came in whatever kind of packaging, but they were like candies. But they were like, I don't know if it was like not amphetamine, but caffeine or some kind of stimulant in there that would like curb your appetite, and it tastes like caramel. It's called
terrible branding.
Terrible. Man. Well, that's before AIDS was a thing, so it was called AIDS. Like I guess aiding in weight loss, right?
Sure.
So I remember that specifically. My mom had like a medicine cabinet full of like dieting stuff, right? So I was aware of that, and I just wanted to change my body. Long story short, I was with a friend of mine. It was raining out, and we were in his house, and his brother was in the basement lifting weights. So I remember exactly. He was bench pressing. I got under the bar. We took some weight off, and I tried it, and I loved it. And I was like, I came home literally that day, and I don't know what it was. I always try to think about what it was about that, that feeling. I don't know really how to describe it, but I went home to my mom. My dad, actually, he was shaving. I remember I was sitting in the hallway, or standing in the hallway, and he was shaving in the mirror. I can visualize it right now. I'm like, Dad, I want a weight bench for Christmas. And he looked down at me, and everything else before that I quit. So like judo, when we moved, I didn't want to sign up with a new dojo in town because I was a little bit awkward and I didn't want to start it again.
Sure.
Baseball, I hated. I wanted to quit. Soccer, I didn't like. So my dad looked at me and he's like, are you going to do it? Are you going to stick with it? Because they didn't, if I wanted something, as long as I was, a good boy, so to speak, I was a good kid, they would get me in it. It wasn't like the money thing. He's like, are you going to stick with it? I was like, yeah. And what did I know that I was really going to stick with it or not, So that Christmas, he got me a weight bench. So I was down in the basement, doing my thing, and I thought I was a badass. And only thing that instructions on how to use the thing was like some basic exercises that came in like a pamphlet with it. It was called DP Fit for Life. It was sand-filled weights and like this little bench that I had in my bedroom with some weights and a curl bar with the little like small little barbells with the little spinny things to keep the weights on.
Yeah.
But I did it. And then a couple of times I got hurt and I couldn't go to school because my back was jacked up because I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Right.
But that's how I started weight training. And then you want to interject? Are you cool? Keep rambling?
You keep going.
All right. So, stop me because I'll keep going on a tangent. I'm fully aware. So where are we at? 13, start lifting weights. And then like another friend of mine, his brother was going to the gym. So that was like 13, 14-ish where I was hanging out with my buddy Brian. And he was like, well, my buddy was going to Gold's. So that was like a Friday night thing for us where we'd like, in the beginning, it was like an overnight thing. Like I would go to his house. His mom and dad would drop us off at Gold's Gym. We would spend like 3, 4, 5 hours in Gold's Gym.
Wow.
And that was like an evening. We'd come home and, have some potato chips and eat like a maniac. And then that was like a sleepover event for us, like the gym and then like hanging out at his house.
Like the arcade, but
the gym.
at the gym.
Right, exactly.
That's awesome.
And then the next step was, hey, Dad, I want to join Gold's Gym, which at 14 years old, he was looking at me going, well, this is a bigger investment. It's not just a weight bench now. It's like, you're going to go to a gym. Do you know what you're doing? Are you going to get hurt? Does weightlifting stunt your growth? Like all these questions, like now it's just very common for like, you pop up on Instagram and you can see like an 11-year-old doing like a barbell clean, but back then it wasn't like even 6 years old. I've seen young kids doing weight training nowadays because if you're doing it correctly, it's not going to stunt anything.
And it's more accessible too, as far as, the sport of it, but there's a gym on every corner.
Exactly. So that was, he, reluctantly signed me up to the gym. So then it was not only a Friday and Saturday thing, that was like a Monday through Friday thing.
Wow.
So my mom would he would take the bus home from school. My parents would drop us off at the gym after dinner, like 4:30, 5 o'clock. His mom would pick us up 7:30, 8, and then we'd come home and then start the process the next day. And I started seeing results. And now I come in the gym, I'm in this environment. Now I was less, for some reason, I didn't no anxiety about being in the gym. I was like asking, I was like, oh, how do you do that? Or I want calves like that, or I want arms like that. So I would ask people, and there was a few people who would just be like blow me off because gym culture back then. I was talking about it a little bit last week. Gym culture back then, like there wasn't, it wasn't like a lifestyle back then. It was like a subculture. So when you went to the gym, it was like typical old school, Venice Beach. Tank tops,
right?
Men grunting, sweating, loud music, steamy windows. There wasn't a lot of females with weights. they were doing their jazzercise classes downstairs or some kind of yoga-ish class. And upstairs was just like iron and dudes just like clanging and banging weights. And for me, it was like, I don't know, I loved it. So a few people kind of, gave me some answers, but there was one person in particular who kind of just really answered my questions and took me under his wing, and we can talk about that whenever. But
so here's a question. I remember some hobbies that I had at 13. I don't do them anymore, right? There are some things that are still transcendent, right? I'm still into music. I'm still into, various things that I did as a kid, but it's not everything. How did you decide that, like, at 13, I'm really enjoying this. This is what I want to do with my life? Because you have dedicated your entire life, championships and awards and medals, the gym, everything you got going on. It's a lifestyle for you. So at what point was it like, this is more than just a hobby?
I think at 45, I'm realizing that, I don't think it was like, this is it. I think it was just like, I want to train tomorrow. I can't wait to train tomorrow. I can't wait to train tomorrow. I can't wait to do biceps. I can't wait to do chest. And one day at a time, one workout at a time, one rep at a time, really. I don't think it was, and it's still like I'm 45 going, I want to compete again, and maybe this is, and that's probably to a default. I don't, use that to my advantage a lot with marketing and with, letting people know that, no, this is my life.
Yeah.
Because I'm like a little bit still, for some reason at times, like, not insecure about it, but I go in my cocoon. Like, I don't want to be like, just showing because I always didn't like that guy. When I was in high school, I wasn't that guy to wear a short sleeve shirt or like wear a cutoff. I wasn't. If I was in the gym, if I was in my basement, if I was showing off with my buddies, absolutely. But in the school, I didn't want that attention. So if I saw somebody who was just on the beach, like puffing up, I'd be like, oh, fuck. I don't want to, definitely don't want to be that guy.
Right.
So now I have this negative thought process sometimes that creeps in when I post too many pictures of me doing bodybuilding. I'm like, no, I don't want to be that guy. So I hesitated, but I don't know why. And I want to break that because I'm not doing it to show off. I'm not doing it to say I'm better than anybody. I'm doing it because A, I'm a little bit, proud, and B, I want to show inspiration and how like consistency and just what fitness how it's changed my life. Take me out of depression, took me, like when I'm insecure, even now at 45, where I'm going through some kind of mental stuff, the gym always is the solution. Turn off the world, I should say, and go do a workout. And you don't always have to be, pushing heavy weights or like having a crazy workout, but the act of, using resistance to fix stuff, right? Mentally, physically, whatever it is powerful. And I would like to, inspire the world to do that. And that's why we're here in this business.